Hey guys, it's Peyton. I just kind of wanted to give a quick disclaimer about this episode. We recorded together for the first time, but unfortunately our location was not ideal and therefore our audio suffered because of it. So I'm really sorry about that. This one is a long one, so if you want to skip, feel free. That's more than fine. It's basically just kind of about our personal lives and we're just kind of like chatting since we're together and we don't see each other very often. So enjoy our new theme song. Welcome back. We're starting.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome back to 2K Away. And if you're watching, this is a very special one because we're in the same room.
We're together!
Yes, and I would be facing her, but my mic doesn't go that way.
And I get to hold mine today. I'm so excited.
I hate you. Because she didn't bring her mic stand because apparently I didn't remind her. I don't know.
No, you told me I didn't have to.
I'll let you keep thinking that.
I will.
So today, since we're together, it was Paige's turn next. So she's gonna go back to our regular scheduled programming next week, because this will be out on the 5th. This is why I said that we were taking a little bit of a hiatus because we were going to be together and we were going to record. So since we're together, what we thought to do is just, again, to do something a little light and breezy and something that we could just like have fun and just laugh with, honestly. So today it's not 2K away, it's 2
inches away.
Yeah. Like how I had to look at us. So if you ever hear me like turn my head from my mic, I do apologize. It's because I'm looking at Paige because I don't want to be rude and not look at her this entire time.
Even though she doesn't want to look at me holding the mic.
It does piss me.
I know. This is what I've wanted from the beginning, though.
We had really this whole thing before we even started recording the first episode where I mailed her the mic and I go, okay, well now we have to get you a mic stand. And she's like, but can't I just hold it? And I go, no, you cannot hold the mic.
I don't see what's wrong with it.
Anyway, so we also have a theme song finally. Sorry,
Yay.
It took so long.
It's fine.
So this week, what we decided to do is just talk about our personal lives, really.
Yeah.
And what we wanted to do is, unfortunately, we have a few true crime stories, but not really anything that would be like,
noteworthy.
Oh, yeah, not anything that would be super cool or stuff that we even know like tons of details about. But we're going to tell some spooky paranormal stories.
Of our houses that we lived in.
The houses that we used to live
growing up, because 2 of our houses that we lived in growing up were one of them was super creepy. One of them was just kind of, I don't know, it was just haunted, but it wasn't like creepy haunted. You'll see why.
One of them was creepy haunted. The other one was just like
funny haunted,
kind
almost.
Of. Yeah. Yeah.
You'll see.
All right. So to keep us as anonymous as possible, I guess.
Safe.
Yes, and safe. So we're going to be referring to the first house where we basically spent like from birth to like my junior year of high school anyway.
Yeah.
First
18 years of my life.
Yes. So we're going to talk about that one and we're going to say 408. And then our next house that we're going to be talking about, we're going to say 17.
Yeah. Two different towns.
2 different towns, 2 different street names, but we're going to say the numbers to keep it anonymous. No, is that the word I'm looking for? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Spooky.
Keep it nice and vague. All right,
it's fine.
And we did write to a few of our friends, and they messaged us telling us their creepy stories because we definitely
excited about it.
Friends that had experiences in both of those houses.
Yeah.
So
and our mom.
Yeah,
and my
and her
husband.
mom. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, do you want to let's read our stories about about 408 first,
Yeah.
and then we'll tell our stories, and then we'll read stories from 17, and then we'll talk about 17 the very last, because 17 was a shit show.
That one was creepy.
Very creepy. So the first house that we're going to be talking about, 408. So as far as the history goes, I think it was built in the 20s.
I feel like it was around actually when the Titanic sank, because when I learned that, I'm like, the Titanic.
It wasn't.
Like 1912-ish or something like that.
No, I think it was older.
And there was a wedding in the 20s.
We don't know. Because I could have swore it was the 20s. I don't know. I don't know.
It's fine.
So, the one thing that we do know about that is we're pretty sure that someone, one of the previous owners did die in one of the rooms.
Yeah, but he only used like 3 rooms in the house or something, supposedly.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird because when we moved into it, our parents had to basically like redo the entire thing. Like they gutted it and
Right.
Redid the walls, everything of that nature, because the previous owner, I think he was the one that owned it right before we did.
No, actually.
Okay, whatever. He owned it at some point, but he only used a couple rooms in the downstairs portion. It was a 2-story house, but he didn't even like go upstairs.
The upstairs was not finished at all.
Mm-mm.
At all. Even when we moved in,
Like,
it wasn't finished.
Bare bone walls.
Yeah. So he only used a few rooms, but then he died in one of the bedrooms, the one that he actually used, I believe is what happened.
Yeah.
Don't know of what, but all that good, clean living type of deal.
Right.
So that's who we've just assumed is the ghost that haunts 408.
Or at least one of them.
So that's why we called him Bob lovingly. That was our ghost.
Yeah, anytime something weird would happen, we'd be like, damn it, Bob.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah. He was nice.
Yeah.
In the afterlife.
Nothing too scary, honestly.
No, that's the thing. I was never scared.
I have one scary incident from that entire experience. And
Do you want to say that first?
No, you can read yours. I'll say it last.
Okay. Well, we'll start off with her mom's.
Yes.
I mean, she kind of tells a little bit backstory when she was growing up, because she grew up in this town. So, both of our parents did. But, so she said, when I was a kid, there was a big old creepy house a couple blocks from where I grew up that was creepy, all caps. The old man named Bob that lived there didn't take care of the old house or himself for that matter. You know, all that good, clean living.
Right.
So when he passed away, I think it was in the house, but it's been so many years I don't remember if that is true, because, you know, rumors fly in a town full of 150 people.
Sorry. I'm yawning.
Nasty.
It's been a long day.
Okay. So she said, fast forward several years when my husband and I purchased the house. Never would I have believed that I would be living in the same house that gave me the creeps years ago. This house was called 408. We lived in the house for 20 years and raised a family. Now, mind you, this was an old house which made a lot of noise, which it did. I mean, we're not denying that at all, but we could tell the difference.
But there's a difference between a house settling kind of noise or in a creek versus something that sounds like it came from a person. Yeah. You mean footsteps?
Oh, yeah.
You don't hear footsteps.
I say that all the time, too. That's
Just
not just... I say that all the time, too. Footsteps. Yes, footsteps. Yeah, a house does not make footsteps. Okay.
Yes. You can't.
Okay, creaks and bumps from the old house. No big deal. Although we had a couple of cats that would freak us out by staring at nothing. Because cats are creepy. Looking around the corners is what they would do, and then they'd look back at us like, did you see that?
They would.
They totally would. Right in the middle of bathing, they would stop and look at something creep low to the floor to investigate. One of the bedrooms was turned into a quote-unquote playroom for us. When the girls got older, we turned it into a washroom, which happened to be quote-unquote Bob's bedroom. That's part of the house that he actually lived in.
I think that's presumed where he died.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because we turned that into a big washroom instead, and like almost kind of a utility type of room, because we ended up finishing the upstairs fully, and we moved in there, and it was like a whole like studio apartment almost upstairs.
Yeah, so basically it kind of became like a utility room.
Yeah.
It was like any extra shit in our washer and dryer we threw in there.
Right, and a computer, because, you know, we had computer rooms at that point in time.
We had a computer in there?
Yes, there was a whole corner desk.
I don't remember.
Daisy used to...
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember now. Continue.
Wow. So...
Hey, man.
So this was, the washroom was Bob's bedroom. So for some reason, the box of dryer sheets would not stay on the shelf. So where our washer and dryer was, we had one of those wire shelves above it, and that held all of our dryer sheets, laundry detergent, bleach, all that extra stuff.
Anything that had to do with laundry that we put there.
Was on the shelf. So the other thing about the shelf, it wasn't long enough to go over the washer and dryer. So like it wouldn't, something wouldn't fall directly to the floor.
If something fell, it would hit the washer and dryer,
Yeah.
for sure.
So for some reason, the box of dryer sheets would not stay on the shelf. I would head to the washroom to start laundry and then find them on the floor. It got to the point when I would put them back, I would be in another room and hear a noise, and sure enough, they were back on the floor. This didn't happen every day, and I actually have my own story of this as well. It's very similar. So it was sporadic. One particular day it happened 3 different times, and I finally yelled, "Knock it off," and that was it. Quite honestly, I don't remember that happening anymore after that. So you could be laying in bed, and it felt as if one of the cats jumped on the bed, and then when you would call their names, they would come around the corner and sit in the door as if to say, "You called." And we had 2 like 13-pound cats.
Yeah, our cats
So
were really, really fat. So
you could tell when they jumped up.
Is this happened to everybody that lived in the house? Because while we were trying to sell that house, when we moved out of 408 and we were living in 17, we were trying to sell 408 while living in 17, and we had some friends that like, oh, I need a space. And we like rented the house out to a couple of our friends,
including me and my husband.
that too, yeah. And
we moved back.
Yeah, everyone that has ever lived there since we have lived there has always felt the cat jumping on the bed. So if you're laying in bed, and again, our cats were super fat, so
you could tell.
It felt like a real cat. It felt like one of our cats. Yeah. You'd be laying in bed, and then you'd feel that jump, and then like your bed jiggle a little bit. And then you'd feel the little paws like climb up towards you.
Yeah.
And then you'd lift your head to be like, oh, buttons, to look at the cat, and there's no cat.
Right. And then, like she said, when you called her, she'd come around the corner like,
what the hell do you want?
Why are you calling me? You're a peasant.
Yeah, basically.
Because it was a cat. So that actually she adds in there, but you could have sworn that they were on the bed. Our cats were 13 pounds. You knew when they jumped on you. One day, this is next story of hers. She runs on it. She doesn't do paragraphs. So she says, one day I was standing at the bottom of the staircase and I hollered up the stairs, "Hey, Paige." She answered me with a "yeah." I began to tell her what I wanted. About that time, Paige came around the corner into the living room and asked, "Who are you talking to?" I screamed, like I do, and said, "I was talking to you. You answered me." She said, "Mama was outside." The expression of fear that was on my face could have been in the 80s horror movie. Big eyes.
Oh yeah, because I think we were both outside.
Like legitimately outside.
Like
and
outside.
Our staircase going up to our bedroom is fully closed in. It's not an open staircase, so when you stand at the bottom of the staircase,
there's literally a wall hiding the stairs.
You don't really hear what's going on in the kitchen, which is completely around the other side of the house. So when she said she heard me from upstairs say, "Yeah," she starts talking blah, 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 like she does. Mm-hmm. And then I come around the corner, I'm like, "What are you doing?" Because I remember this.
I know, and I heard her.
She's like,
"Oh!" I heard her scream from outside. That's how loud she was like, "Ah!" Sorry that I just murdered everybody's ears, but
like she does when she's scared.
That's how she screamed.
Yeah.
And she was like, "You were upstairs!" Like screaming.
And I was like, "No, actually, I was outside with Peyton." Yeah. So, okay, and then she goes on to talk about 17. So that's what she says about 408. So my best friend, she said we could use her first name. So my best friend Erica, who we've been best friends for like literally ever.
Like all of our lives.
Inseparable throughout high school, and she's like one of the 2 people I still keep in contact with, even though she lives across the country from me. So she sent me hers because, of course, she spent a lot of time at her house growing up. So her story is hilarious. So she goes, "Here you go. Sorry I'm the worst."
Also, I have not heard this because Paige wouldn't read it to me.
No, I wouldn't.
So I'm excited. I mean, like, I know of her experiences, but, like,
Yeah.
I'm
This
excited
was-
to hear from her.
Yeah, so this was the one that I was the most excited that she would talk about, because this is the one that she remembers vividly the most. Okay, so she says, "Here you go. Sorry I'm the worst and forgot to do this. Also, I did not proofread, so I hope it makes sense." So yes, I read it, and it's hilarious, and I loved that this was the story that you chose to talk about because it's awesome. And I know you've heard her talk about this as well,
Oh, I'm sure.
but I wanted it in her own
It's
words.
better from her.
Oh, it totally is. And this proves it. So she goes, "So I don't remember what year it was, but I guess we were in college because your family still lived at 408. And I worked maybe at the pool store. So early college. Anyway, your whole family had gone on vacation, and our other friend Sarah and I volunteered, or did your mom just volunteer us to do this? I don't remember. To house and dog sit for your parents and grandparents' houses while you were gone." So this must have been while we were in Alaska. So this was like
Oh.
just before
I was gonna
senior
be like,
year, actually.
Where the hell did we and our grandparents go at the
And
same
Mom and
time?
Pop.
Okay,
yeah, so
okay.
this must have been when we did our Alaska trip.
Yeah.
So dog sit. So dog sit for our grandparents, they had like 5 outside dogs. They just needed let out and let back in. They were fine. We, on the other hand, and they were just like normal dogs. We, on the other hand, don't have normal dogs.
No, we never do. We had,
Yeah.
he was like 200 pounds. He was an English Mastiff. He was named Ben.
And we also had Newfie at the time
did
as
have
well,
Newfie, yeah, sorry.
who was a
He was a
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland, yeah.
And he was 100 pounds.
We're really original.
So
with our
original.
names. Newfie.
and Benjamin. So it was
Yeah.
Ben. We called him Ben, lovingly Benjamin. So, and Newfie was super smart. Benjamin, on the other hand, he was
Very lovable. He was dumb.
scared of everything. I mean, literally everything.
Yeah.
Like if you think of a horse that's just terrified of
And a lot
everything.
I do have a lot of spooky stories that me and Ben experienced together.
Well, one of Ryan's experiences is with Ben as well,
Aw.
but that's at 17. So, okay. So, house and dog sit for your parents and grandparents while you were gone, because we couldn't board Ben because he would literally have a heart attack if he was boarded by himself.
He was real anxious.
So anxious. So, for the most part, the week was uneventful. I was working at the pool store, so when I was gone during the day, Sarah was in charge of all the morning and afternoon dog duties. Then on my way back into town after work, I would first stop by Ma and Pa's house to feed their dogs. It was usually pretty uneventful, though I have to admit I really did not enjoy the nighttime dog letting out. Nothing ever happened, but I'm just a chicken shit, so I didn't enjoy being outside in the dark at a house that isn't my own.
Real quick, this is also our same friend who is scared of snakes and ferrets because they don't have legs. In her words.
Yes. She's literally the best, but she very much is a chicken shit. She is, what's funny is too, she's 6 foot tall. So there's not a whole lot to be afraid about for her, but oh my gosh, it's just funny. So, but anyway, Sarah and I had been doing the whole house sitting for several days, and at night we would both spend the night at your house. Then the weekend rolled around, and I can't remember exactly why, but there were a couple days that Sarah wasn't able to spend the night at the house. I think she worked a night shift on Friday night and then had to open DQ the next day or something, so it didn't make sense for her to drive back and forth. I didn't think much about it. I mean, you had a 200-pound dog who wouldn't leave my side, so what was there to be afraid of? So that Friday I worked, came back to the house, let the dogs out, and settled in at your parents' house that night. Ben and I were just hanging out, watching movies. I think I ordered a pizza from the local gas station, which was the best. Mm-hmm. We were about halfway through the breakfast club when all of a sudden, Ben hopped up from the spot on the floor that he had been laying on and ran over to the doorway to your parents' room. So our parents' room was downstairs. We had knocked out a closet to make a big bedroom down there. So they had it set up a certain way to where a dresser, there was a lot of space in front of one of the dressers. So I didn't think anything much of it. Dogs are jumpy, and Ben in particular was startled by everything. So I got up too and asked, "What's wrong, buddy?" Ben just continued to stare into your parents' bedroom, which of course was pitch dark because why wouldn't it be, as I walked over to the doorway and flipped on the light. When I did, what I saw was right there in the middle of your parents' room was a cowboy hat. Now, that by itself doesn't sound very scary, but let's see. I was probably, 19? Actually, you were probably like between 17 and 18 because junior year. So I had been coming to your house for approximately 17 years at that point, and not once in my life had I ever seen that cowboy hat anywhere but hanging off the corner of your dad's dresser. So it's a mirrored dresser. It's a tall mirrored dresser. It's not one of the long ones. So,
and he always had, that particular one, he always had two cowboy hats hanging off of both sides of the mirror. He had a black one and then like a tan one. Never wore them.
No.
But he had them.
But he had them. And it was constantly hanging up on that dresser. And like I said, there's quite a bit of space in front of that dresser.
Where did she say it was?
In the middle of the room. Like on
the bed?
No.
Or just on the floor?
Why don't you pay attention to me?
You just said in the middle of the room.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, in the middle of your parents' room. So it was on the floor, if I remember right. It wasn't on the bed, but it was on the floor a few feet away from the dresser. So she said she hadn't seen that hat anywhere other than hanging on the corner of the dresser. She goes, "I never saw him record it. I assume he has some weird wannabe cowboy fantasy." Wouldn't surprise me, honestly. But it was always there. So that just confirms Peyton hadn't even read this yet. And she goes, "Oh, he's never worn them." Erica knew us. So the most logical explanation for the hat being in the middle of the floor would be that it just fell off. I was in the middle of summer, so I definitely had the AC blasting, because we all like to be cold.
Right.
So maybe it kicked on and knocked off the hat, right? Wrong-o, in all caps. If that were the case, the hat would have just flopped off onto the floor next to the dresser. But that motherfucker was, in all caps, right in the fucking middle of the floor, a good 5 feet from the dresser, sitting up straight like someone motherfucking put it there. I told you it's amazing.
Bob liked to move stuff.
He really, honestly,
dryer sheets and cowboy hats.
He was actually kind of a prankster almost, because he would just fuck with you like that.
It wasn't even that. It was just more annoying.
I know, just to
stop
inconvenience
moving.
You. Yeah.
Because he's done that. He did it to me too.
Yep. So she goes, what did I do? Well, being the responsible person that I am, I know I couldn't just abandon my house and dog sitting duties. So I did what any grown-ass woman does when there's a crisis. I called my dad. And him, being the great father that he is, he packed himself an overnight bag and drove over to spend the night in the house with me. Might we add that he graduated with our dad. So, I mean, they went all through school together and were friends as well.
Generations of knowing our families.
Seriously.
In the same context, I guess.
Yeah. So it was also nothing for him to come over and stay as well.
I didn't know he stayed there. That makes this a million times better.
So from then on out, I told Sarah she had to make the drive back and forth to Hillsboro to go to work. Sorry, not sorry.
Also, if you hear some creaking, I'm sorry. These are our shitty chairs that we're sitting in right now.
Yeah, they're not great.
No.
So anyway, that's my story. That was the only creepy thing that happened to me in your house. Though I know you have a dozen stories. Love and miss you guys, Erica.
We love you and miss you too.
So much. And I can't wait for the plague to be over.
Right? I know.
Yep. Okay, so I now have Ryan's. So...
yeah, his name's not Ryan, it's Billy. His name's actually
fine.
Legally, his name is Ryan.
I wasn't going to ask you to use your name. You're fine. It's fine. That's what you did when you signed the marriage certificate. Ryan actually he was really proud of the title of the subject of his email that he sent me. The 408 and 17 shit show. Because that's kind of what 17 was.
I'm shaking my head, yes, sorry for those who are just listening. I'm just like,
Well, yes. All right, so 408. 408, although nothing really happened when I was there visiting. So we were together for a little bit when we moved into 17, so he did know 408 a little bit beforehand. But then once we moved to 17, and then Ryan and I moved in together, we moved back into 408 while we were trying to sell it.
Yeah.
So we lived there with a roommate, a friend of mine, and then she found her own place, so then we lived there for a couple years as well. So he says, nothing really happened when I was there visiting, and then when everybody moved to 17, I had just heard all the stories.
sorry, I'm still laughing at the cowboy.
The cowboy hat, yeah. It was great. I told you it was amazing.
Sorry.
So the real shit show happened when Paige and I moved back in. The biggest occurrence, other than seeing regular cats run across the floor and feel them run up and cuddle up to you in bed. The biggest thing was when I was sitting in the small part where we had our TV by the stairs in the bookcase.
Sorry about the siren in the back. Also, yeah, we would see, like from sitting on the couch, we would see like little black shadows running underneath the kitchen table.
Yeah, and it'd kind of be the corner of your eye type of deal.
Yeah.
Where everybody always says you see ghosts just kind of out of the corner of your eye, but that would be the cat situation. We would kind of see them from the living room looking into the kitchen.
Yeah, because, the thing with that
but
is
that was the only place you saw them.
They're
though.
really quick, was always the kitchen.
It was always the kitchen.
I mean, of course, they'd jump up on any bed.
Right, but you'd only
see
them in the
kitchen.
kitchen.
Yeah.
So, and actually our roommate that we lived with, she also said that as well. She felt a cat and
saw cats.
And then saw cats, yeah. I think she heard music at one point in time, but when she would like lift up her head, she wouldn't hear the music again. I think that was her other thing. Which I never heard music there. So
just the one music experience, which we'll tell later.
Yeah. He said, I had my phone sitting on top of the bookcase where the ledges wouldn't allow it to fall off. I was sitting, minding my own damn business, playing Xbox or watching something. I had heard a big thud over by the big window. Then I then looked over thinking it was Paige or one of the living cats scurrying around. Nope, I was wrong. I looked and my phone was lying face up in the middle of the floor like I had set it there, even though I hadn't. So I have another instance of that as well that I'm going to tell in my experience. Mm-hmm. So that was our friends' experiences at 408.
And your husband.
Yeah.
Our
and
friend.
our mom.
Oh, yeah.
She's not our friend.
Neither's your husband. We're not friends with him.
No.
So do you want to say yours or do you want to
You go
say
ahead.
mine?
You
Okay.
go ahead first.
I have quite a few.
Go for it.
Okay. So, of course, now I never had the dryer sheets go up and down with me, but
it was the detergent for me.
For you, yeah. So I never had anything like that. My electric Barbie Jeep
Oh, I forgot about Jeep.
did like to move on occasion. And I did have a basketball, because I played basketball like one time. So sorry to those of you that are watching this. We had to switch cameras. We had a technical issue.
I wanted to say it. We had technical difficulties.
All right. So
Barbie Jeep.
Yes. So my Barbie Jeep would move randomly, and this is after Bob's bedroom was converted into a playroom, where we had like all of our toys and stuff.
Right.
And where we had like all of our animals and our lizards and rodents and stuff like that.
We had a zoo.
We did. It was a menagerie basically. So my Barbie Jeep would drive around, and most of the time the remote didn't work.
No,
so
it didn't.
there was. So the only way you could move it, because it was a motorized Barbie Jeep, and the only way that you could move it is if you actually pushed it.
Yeah.
So it made a horrific sound. So that's the only way that it would actually move. And then sometimes it would go by itself quite a great distance.
It almost reminded me of like on Poltergeist when they're like, oh yeah, we've seen a ball move a half a centimeter every 4 hours.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh really? And they open the door and there's shit flying around, but this Barbie Jeep would just like, just go.
Yeah, and same way again. I had a basketball for like no reason, because I played basketball for one season in like 5th grade. So my dad was all excited that he bought me a basketball, and like, look at me, I don't fucking run. So
I tried basketball too. I quit in half the season.
I know I can't dribble for shit.
Of all things, that's what you can't do.
I can make hoops. I can shoot hoops, like make hoops. Is that I don't play basketball, see? I'm not a sports guy. But
Sports
like
ball.
I can
Ryan's shaking his head at you. He's so disappointed.
sorry. But I can shoot hoops and I can make them. However, dribbling,
She's not coordinated.
not even
At
a
all.
little bit.
No.
And like running and dribbling, just I would rather go swimming, and I can't swim. Dribble a ball.
But your basketball would move.
My basketball would move sometimes too. And like that house wasn't like, the foundation was pretty solid, so it wasn't, I never noticed anything like real
Uneven.
wacky with that. Yeah,
Right.
uneven. That's the word I'm looking for.
It was just basketball because we had volleyballs too.
Yeah, we had the volleyballs, but he didn't touch those.
Nope.
So my basketball moved a few times. So we lived like in the middle of nowhere, and there's not really much to do, especially when you're young and without a driver's license.
No.
So it's not like we could really go anywhere, and it was like
No.
like 10-minute drive from the nearest town with something to do. So the most that we could do was like ride our bikes, play in the yard, and
Right.
walk up to the gas station. But we never had any money, so that was
No.
also pointless.
Right.
So one of the things that we would do all the time is clean.
Well, I mean, we had pets.
And we hadn't we have a very, very OCD mother.
Yes.
So if everything wasn't spotless, it was dirty.
Right.
Even if it was clean. If it didn't shimmer from being clean, then it was dirty.
That's
So
true.
one of the things that I would do all the time is I would like dust. And at one point I had like my radio on, back when actual radios were a
Right.
thing.
And it was your green like boom box. Small little radio.
CD player.
CD and tape player.
Did that one have a tape
It
player?
did.
I think, yeah.
It sure did.
So I had my green, which I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
So I would like play that while I'm doing chores, and I would like sing along. And apparently he didn't like that, because anytime that I would like play my music really loud and clean,
Yeah.
if I was by myself especially, he would start knocking things off shelves.
Yeah.
Like he would knock like our plastic cups out of the cabinets as I'm like trying to put them away, and they would just go and just fall out of the cabinets
Like a cat.
like
Nope.
a cat. And like even if something was on the counter, and it wasn't like I wasn't paying attention. Like yes, I was young, but I know how to set something on a counter to not make it fall off. And things would fall off. Like my dish rag would just like off the counter, and I would like aggravate and be like, oh my, stop it! Like, just, I'm trying to clean, that sort of thing. My green CD player.
Yeah.
So this was back when the first Shrek movie came out.
First Shrek. So what was that? It was before 2000 or right around there or something. You're our internet search guy.
Need to get paid for this shit.
You paid with our love and affection.
No, I don't. That's not
You're right, we don't love you.
one. Oh, one.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, in 2001.
2001, and I had the CD, and I
The
remember the
soundtrack.
CD. Yeah, the soundtrack, the Shrek soundtrack, and I
Which
remember
was the
this,
shit,
Yeah,
by the
it really
way.
was. Every Shrek movie had a great soundtrack.
They did.
And this was pre-meme, so All Star by Smash Mouth was on that CD. And I remember specifically, it was track number 5.
Yeah,
It was track number 5.
we know that because
How I know that is because that one song, because I always had the Shrek CD because it was such a good CD. And it
Yeah,
had such a variety of songs. And we listened to it all the time. And I remember specifically, it was like a green and purple kind of color, and it had
Yeah.
Shrek's face on it.
yep, in an S actually.
Yes. And All Star by Smash Mouth would play on that CD player all the time. Randomly, when it was off, it would turn
The whole
on, and it
boombox was off.
yeah, the whole thing was off, and it would turn on and go immediately to All Star by Smash Mouth.
There was no going to number 1, 2. No, immediately
immediately go
because
to
it
number
would.
5.
It had the little screen on there
Mhm.
that had.
It had a little screen on
That
there,
would put
and
the
it
number
had,
on it.
It would have the number of what track you were listening to
Yep.
on the CD,
Yep.
and it would immediately go to number 5, which was All Star by Smash
By
Mouth.
Smash
And
Mouth.
I'm going to remind you again. This was pre-meme. Like, before that song was even as huge as it was now. Everybody knows that song.
Yep.
And we would just start hearing somebody wants, and we'd be like, oh my god, and we'd have to turn it off
It went on before when it was unplugged.
when it was unplugged. Mm-hmm.
The whole
Like
stereo was unplugged.
one of those classic like ghost tropes, like, oh, the radio was unplugged.
Yeah,
That's
seriously,
literally
because
what
it was not one that was battery operated. We
Yeah.
weren't rich.
No.
So we
No.
had to plug it
We
in.
definitely
So
plugged it
when
in.
it was unplugged, it would turn on, show up number 5 on the little screen, like the whole 9. It did it when the CD wasn't in the stereo.
Yeah, it did that. I think once or twice.
Yes. Wasn't even in the stereo.
Yeah, I
When
don't
we
know.
moved,
and
we
it would
threw
still
that-
say number 5.
Yes. When we moved, we threw that radio away.
So I don't know if the radio was just garbage, but it was always All Star by Smash.
Always, every single time.
And I will say, it never tired me of that song. I still
No.
love that song.
Again, that's the other thing we were saying. Like it never felt bad or sinister or creepy to us. It was just these things happen, and it's just like, all right, it's Bob.
Yeah, it was.
Bob
it
really
was
likes
super
Smash
creepy.
Mouth.
So there was, as far as seeing things, I think the only thing that I ever really saw there were the cats.
Yeah, I never actually saw anything.
The only two things that I really remember as far as like being a little nervous. Before I tell those, I did hear someone. It sounded like a kid, honestly.
Oh, fucking
We've
ghost
already-
kids.
We've already discussed this. It sounded like a little girl,
Oh,
and it was.
why is that worse?
I was getting out. Well, it could have been a little boy. I don't know. They sound the same to me.
Well, I mean,
I'm not a kid person. So, I was getting out of the shower once, and I heard just a little, and I was like, who the fuck?
wait, was that at 408?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you said that it was at.
No, I literally told you this the other night. It was a 408.
I know, but I was in my head thinking it was 17.
No.
No,
408.
right.
I heard a little, and I kind of like stopped, and I'm naked because I just got out of the shower, and I kind of like stopped with my towel, and I was like, drying myself off.
And for those of you who are not watching us, she was rubbing her chest.
I was drying off. I was imitating myself drying off. So I started drying off again, and I heard like a, and that's it. It was the weirdest thing,
Yeah,
and that was the only time that I ever heard anything like that. And I was like, who the hell?
Maybe it was Bob, and he just sounded a little
Like,
feminine.
Maybe.
Could have.
I don't know.
I don't know. He died before we were born.
That's true. Another thing that we would always hear is footsteps going up and down the stairs.
Well, that's because our staircase was incredibly creaky.
It was.
That was one thing that our dad was not able to fix, was how creaky our staircase was. So you could clearly hear everybody going up the stairs, including our 100-pound and 200-pound dogs. They sound, you could tell who was who, whether it was a person or a dog. Either way, you heard it. So it was real creepy when you heard somebody coming up the stairs, you know, the entire length of the staircase, and don't see anybody emerge.
Especially in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night, it's great. Yeah. Every once in a while, though, it would be Newfie, and he was black. So
you couldn't see
him.
Poor buddy.
Yeah, but he would always come over to us and announce that he was there, like by
that,
sticking his face
you'd
right
hear,
in front of your face.
Well, that you'd hear him like
that big dog
yeah.
pant. Yeah, but yeah, there was constantly somebody walking up and down the staircase.
Oh yeah,
constant.
So in our old bedroom downstairs before we moved upstairs, there was one time, which honestly, it might have been just like sleep paralysis. I don't know, but there was one time where like I felt like someone like kind of just like pressed my shoulders a little bit.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was awake and I could move, so I'm like, that was weird. And again, I was little, so I was like, huh. I just went about my day. I don't know, it was weird. The only, which I have told you, I think I told you and Daddy this story, and both of you were like, no, it was the dog, even though you guys are assholes. And
like when
totally
we didn't
happened.
believe you when there was an
About
earthquake.
the earthquake, yes. That's a whole other story. And I wanted to go into it because it pissed me off. So there was only one time where I actually felt like, ooh, my skin's crawling a little bit. There was one time, I think you may have been at Erica's or another friend's. I don't remember you being home, and if you were asleep because you're a dickhead. And I can never sleep. So I was laying in my bed, and I think I was probably reading or something, but where I had a little, this is back when you would have a little like headboard on your twin. This is when we had headboards on our twins.
Yeah, they were shelves.
Yeah. So I had a little lamp on mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little lamp on, and from where we were in that part of the room, it lit up just to like the edge of my bed, but then you couldn't see anything else. It was still dark in the rest of the room. So there was one time, I think I was reading, because I remember the light being on, so I heard 4 paw prints up the staircase, and then I heard like a little like pat, and then I go, Newfie, because that's who I thought it was. I thought it was our dog. And it stopped at like the end of my bed, like kind of where my hope chest was. I had a hope chest at the end of my bed. And then I heard just like a snarl, like growl. And I kind of like listened to it for a second. And I sat up to look, and there's no dog.
Well, and you know, when you have a dog, you know what all of its sounds sound like.
And that was not either of
and
our
you
dogs.
could tell what's not your dog.
And that was neither of our dogs. So there was no dog at the end of the bed. So the only thing that I could do was lay down and quietly try and die, because there was clearly a demon in the room. So I was like, well, either way, it's taken me. So it's like I could defend myself. So that was honestly the only really like creepy thing that ever happened to me in that house. Everything else was just kind of like lovable little poltergeist Bob, like being an asshole and moving shit.
Yeah. Well, so I can kind of play off of the dryer sheets, but it was the. I'm getting to the snow globe. So it was
that's our dad.
It was the detergent for me. So I was home alone and I was doing laundry, and again, the shelf above the washer and dryer was set back. It wasn't like over the front of the washer and dryer. So I
will interject. We were a family of 4, so we would never buy the tiny detergent. It was always like the big
it was the
gallon
big
or
gallon
2
thing.
ones. So if it had fallen, you would have
you
heard
heard it. So, and that's exactly what happened. So I put a load in, went out to do something, clean something else, because again, that's what we did.
We did for fun.
It wasn't fun for me. So, and then I heard something hit the washer. So I went in and it was sitting upright, like I had just sat it on top of the washer. So I'm like, what the hell? So I put it back up on the shelf, like on the shelf. Wasn't on the edge or anything like that. So I go back to doing what I was doing and I hear it again. So I go back in there and I'm like, what the hell? Sitting in the exact same spot that it was before. So I set it back up and I'm like feeling the wall behind the washer and dryer.
Checking for seismic activity.
It was. I'm like, is it vibrate? Is the shelf vibrating? Like what? Why? What is happening? No, it's not. It's not vibrating. The shelf isn't. Why is this happening? So I go back, try to finish what I was doing, and then I hear a third sound, but it was different than landing on the washer or dryer. It was a different thud. Yeah. So I go back in there and it's sitting on the floor, a foot from the washer and dryer, sat up, straight up, on the floor in front of the dryer this time, not the washer. So I'm like, okay, seriously, stop. I'm trying to clean. I can't be doing this. Set it back up there. Didn't happen again. That was it.
Sometimes you gotta get a little firm.
You have to have that firm hand.
Cut that shit out.
So then I also
Sorry for all the cheer sounds.
It's so bad.
My ass is falling asleep.
Sit on a pillow.
No, that'll make it worse.
Okay. I'm just trying to help. So I was strange and I collected snow globes when I was little.
Oh, we both did. So many fucking
Yeah, but I was really bad about it. And I always
more Legos.
Yeah, I always asked for them for birthdays and Christmas. And
we had a cabinet just for our
cabinet just for the snow globes, and every single shelf was full, inside and on top. Yeah,
and on headboards,
and dressers. So it had a sliding glass. It had a sliding. They were all different. It had a sliding glass on it. So I was again cleaning, doing laundry. I'm sorry. I'm still having a good time holding it. So I'm doing
This is
laundry.
what I mean by I don't want you to hold the fucking mic because you're
I know. So I was doing laundry and I was at the point where I was putting my clothes away. So our dresser was on the opposite wall of our snow globes cabinet. So I'm kneeling down and I'm opening my drawers and stuff in my dresser, and Buttons is up there, one of our cats, 13-pound cats. She's
fat,
sitting up there over by our beds. The dogs were downstairs, so it was just me and Buttons up there. I made sure of it. So I'm sitting, putting clothes away, and we had carpet in our bedroom. And all of a sudden, I heard a thud behind me. It was very soft, but I was like, what was that? I turn around, and I had just dusted, I think, is what the issue was. So the door was open.
We were cleaning.
Right. The door was open, so I saw one of my snow globes. It was one of the taller ones. It was out like it. Oh no, I hadn't dusted that yet. I was going to, because I saw the ring of dust.
That's right. Okay.
You could tell where each and every snow globe was. Because we didn't dust very often.
No.
So, and that was one of the things we got in trouble about because we didn't dust very often. That's okay. So, this is why I don't dust anymore.
Oh my god. This is why your house is disgusting.
So gross. So, I saw that.
Because we have PTSD from our mother making us clean. We
fine.
do.
Kind of. So, the one that was on the very corner in the front row, because there was 2 rows, because I had so many.
It was the one with the heart on the top,
The
right?
heart on the top, yeah. So
it was tall, so we couldn't put it in the cabinet, so I had to be on top of the cabinet. Cabinet?
no, it was on the bottom
Cabinet.
shelf.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was on the very bottom shelf. So it looks like somebody just like bloop, tipped it over. So it was on its face, flat, right directly in front of where it was. So I'm like, oh, that's never happened before. So I just walked over because Buttons was like, of course, bathing, and then she was like, she looked over to the side. I saw her do that. I'm like, what is that? What is happening? So I go over, I put it back, and I go back to putting away clothes.
Uh-huh.
I hear a thud again, and I look back, and it looks, and Buttons is seriously like wide-eyed, pupils dilated, looking over by the snow globe cabinet. So I go back over, I look behind me, and it looks like somebody actually picked it up and sat it directly in front of, like straight up, sat it directly in front of where its dust ring was on the cabinet. And again, this is very bottom shelf, so it's not like it's falling from a great distance. So I'm like, okay. So I put it back.
This was before the detergent incident, correct?
No, this is after the detergent.
Oh.
This is a different day, but
Okay,
after
because
the
I
detergent.
I remember you being more freaked out about the snow globe
Yeah.
than the detergent.
Well, the detergent, I was just pissed because, we had things to do, and he was preventing me from doing that because, we had to get things done before she got home.
Right, because I had to put the detergent on the fucking shelf 3 times.
It was just an inconvenience.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, this is weird, and I put it back on the shelf.
Sorry, I'm dying. I'm choking on my own spit. I don't know. I busted vomit and I was like, I'm not vomiting.
I hope you're not.
No.
So then I put it back up, and seriously, Buttons is freaked out at this point because she's looking at us or looking at over there and looking at me like, are you seeing this? So I'm like, okay, I go back to my dresser, continue to put clothes away, and I hear it again, and I'm like, okay. And at this point, Buttons has stood up and is like kind of walking away from it. Like, you're on your own for this. I look back, that motherfucker was like 3 foot away from the cabinet, sitting straight up, directly in front of its
Of the cabinet.
dust line. Well, I'm talking about where it was sitting on the shelf. Yeah. So it's like if you just took it and walked straight and then set it down, sitting there in front of the cabinet. It could not have just fallen.
No.
It doesn't fall that way. So I'm like, okay, I'll put clothes away later. I put that back on the shelf, closed the door, went downstairs. I'm like, you know what? You can have the upstairs today. It's fine. I don't need to go back up there. Clothes can sit in the tamper. It's
know.
fine. It's fine. It's all good.
I can wear wrinkly stuff.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
It's fine. So my other big thing at 408 was when actually Ryan and I moved back in there. So we were still living in the upstairs portion. Our roommate was still downstairs. So we were in the TV section of how we had it set up there.
Yeah, because again, it's like a giant sectioned studio apartment, kind of.
Minus a bathroom and kitchen, but it's just you had like 3 different sections up there.
Basically.
So where our TV was our bookshelf. We had a couch, which was a love seat basically, sitting across from the bookshelf.
Yeah.
We did have books on the bookshelf. So we're sitting on the couch watching TV. TV is to our right, bookshelf is straight in front of us. So Ryan had his wallet. Because what Ryan had said was a different instance. This has happened before. It did happen while we were together though. So what happened was he had his wallet sitting on the shelf. And at the time he had the trifold wallet. He had set his phone on top of the wallet, but it was back far enough and balanced on the wallet good enough to where it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
It had been there for at least a full movie. because we were on like a second movie, or by this time, no, we were on a second movie. We weren't actually playing anything yet.
Yeah.
So we just sitting there. We didn't have any of the animals because we had 2 cats at the time, and our animals were not there with us. And all of a sudden, the phone, just the phone, not the wallet, flies over to us. Now, there was not a lot of room between the couch and the bookcase, but there was what? At least 3 foot? Yeah, at least 3 foot between the couch and the bookcase.
So not a drop.
Not a drop, no. I would have thought that if it would have dropped, it would have fallen off and like landed kind of sideways and maybe tumbled or something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Not flown straight over to us, flat, good lord, land flat face down directly in front of our feet. And we're like, oh, I guess we'll keep the phone. It's fine. We'll keep it over here. It's fine. We'll just stay
Maybe
here.
he didn't like that it was lighting up all the time.
I don't know. Because he didn't get a text message. He didn't get a phone call. Because, maybe if it vibrated, it might have just like tumbled off. Nope. It
Nothing.
flew straight from the shelf to in front of our feet.
I know, stuff moved in that house all the time.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Poltergeist activity.
I'm telling you, it was just like Poltergeist.
That's very true.
Except it didn't fly in circles.
No, and there wasn't like a killer clown trying to drag us under
We also
our beds.
didn't get stuck on the TV.
Well, you didn't. That's a story for another time.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to 17 because 408 was where again we spent from birth to I was a junior in high school and you were already graduated. So that's when we moved into number 17, and that's when things really started popping up in that
It
house.
got real in that house.
Really, really.
That was another super old house. So, it was
that house was
beautiful.
built in 1915, and I remember specifically when we went to go look at that house. There's a built-in china cabinet in the dining room.
Beautiful.
And it's all original wood floors, original
Trim.
trim. That's what I'm looking for.
Trim, that's it.
So the china
The
cabinet,
big, thick
the
trim.
china cabinet was also all original.
Mhm.
And again, it was born in 1915.
The house was born
Yeah.
in 1915.
It was built in 1915. So when we bought it, it was almost 100 years old, and now it's 105 now. But I think when we bought it, I think it was in 2010. Wow, I'm sorry, my brain's not here.
2010.
Yeah.
11. 10 or 11, one of the two.
Yeah, no, it was 2010.
They're both saying 11.
11? Sure. Okay.
It's fine.
But yeah, so we bought it just shy of being 100 years, and we also sold it just shy of being 100 years. I think we were only there for 2-3 years.
4 years.
4?
Mhm.
Okay. My time runs together. So we were only there for 4 years. And I don't know, we moved for a lot of reasons, but that's not the reason.
To get in town, and what we mean by in town, we go from the town of 150 people to a town of 5,000 people to be in town.
Yeah,
and closer to everything.
That's in town. That's everything, quote unquote, everything.
It's fine.
Yeah, so a little back. Honestly, I think we tried at one point to look at like the backstory about our house. I even looked into the County Historical Society, but the thing is, the street name, it didn't actually become a street until within the last 50 years.
But it was like one of the first streets, technically, in the town. It's one of the oldest streets.
Yeah. And all the houses on there, they're all old houses and everything, but I remember when we looked specifically, it was me, you, and our mother. We went to go look at the house because our dad was on the road. He's a truck driver. And he was gone, but we really wanted to go look at this house because we were in the market, of course. That's what you do.
And it was a beautiful house, 2-story with a big finished basement, which we loved.
Right. And I want to keep in mind that Haunting in Connecticut had just been released.
It had.
It had just been released, and when we went to go look at that house, the original trim and the china cabinet looked like the dining room where all the dead bodies fall out in the movie. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but it's like 10 years old, so who cares? So the part in the movie where like all of the dead bodies start falling out of the wall kind of looked like the same color as the china cabinet.
Yes.
So that's why we fell in love with it, because we're like, oh my god, I bet there's dead bodies in there.
Because we're those people.
We're those people. That's why you and I loved it.
I know. And there was a lot of storage in the house.
Yeah,
and we're like, this is also where they put the dead bodies.
Exactly, like 9-foot ceilings, like wood floors.
Beautiful.
Big kitchen, a dining room that
had
was separated from the kitchen.
A curb appeal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Curb appeal. Curb appeal.
So, and it had a basement, it had an upstairs, and all kinds of stuff. It was really
we could have our own bathroom because we only had one at 408 with 4 people.
This one had 2.5 baths.
We were like, we are living up in the world now.
Oh yeah. We were like, look at us.
Only rich people have more than one bathroom.
A built-in china cabinet.
We didn't even have a dining room.
We didn't, which is one of the appeals of that house, was that it had a dining room that wasn't in the kitchen.
Yep. But the big thing though, after we moved in, while we had, obviously there was an inspection on the house, all the appliances pretty much, even, I don't know that they were like super old, they could have been. Either way, all the big appliances in the house.
They weren't that old. They were within the realm of not being considered old appliances at that point.
To a point where we were like, okay, we don't need to get anything right this second. So, but the thing is, all the appliances went out in all weird ways.
Yeah.
Really very weird ways. Like the dishwasher caught on fire. That's one of the things.
Yeah.
The furnace got struck by lightning. That could just be a very big coincidence, but with all the other crap, AC furnace unit, whatever, it got struck by lightning. So, like, with all the other crap happening, we're like, of course,
it
got struck by lightning.
Okay, as far as things that could be explained, where it's not like, I saw a ghost, but you know how people say, like, oh, ghost affect, like, electronics and animals and stuff like that? So, within the 4 years of us living there, the AC/furnace got struck by lightning, which that was an act of God, I get that. The pilot light
had gone out
with our dog in the basement with the door shut and almost killed him.
Yeah, from the fumes.
From the gas. So thank God nobody lit a match.
Yeah.
So
like the dog.
That good thing Ben didn't light a match, yeah.
Good thing you didn't need to light up.
Right. So the dishwasher caught on fire for literally no apparent reason. The microwave stopped working. Also, the smoke detector upstairs would go off rather frequently. We would change the batteries, and then eventually we got a new one, and even that one continued to go off.
Well, and it wasn't the constant beep beep beep. It was the little chirp.
It was like the chirp, like the batteries were dying.
Yeah, and it would chirp, and you wouldn't hear it for a while, and then it would chirp again, then same thing. Our neighbors even heard that.
Yeah, it was very sporadic. Like Leslie next door would be like, hey, is your batteries going out in your smoke detector? It was
it's pretty bad when your neighbors are like, hey, so change your batteries.
Yeah, so that's electronics, and our animals even.
Our animals changed. So the animals that we had, that we brought with us there, I say that like we left some in Donaldson. Ben, our Mastiff, and the only thing we had left really was our Spooky, our cat.
Mm-hmm.
She was a black cat, so why we called her Spooky. So Benjamin was already kind of a worrywart. He already was scared of everything, but he had to be put on Prozac.
Yeah, we had to put
when we
him...
moved to 17.
Yeah,
because
we had
he
to
was
put him on
just unbearable. The poor guy was terrified, and
Yeah.
he would do this real low pitch like
Yeah,
whine. That's how he whined. It was never that high pitched dog whine. It was always. It was 200 pounds.
So
it was a
dumb
deep
sounding.
whine.
But he was just so, it was like moving kind of really exacerbated like the worry that was already there.
Yeah, poor guy.
But it made it like a million times worse. And I don't know if it was the move, but he got adjusted to the house quickly.
Yeah.
Like he had no problem. He was just like, okay, mommy and daddy and both of my sisters are here, so
Right.
I'm good.
Right.
Oh, and where's the cat? Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, and him and the cat were best friends.
Yeah.
And our cat, Pookie, was the sweetest cat.
She's the best kitty.
When we lived at 408, she was an outside cat for the most part, but she kind of turned into inside outside when we moved to 17.
She was a dog, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Basically
I mean,
dog.
she was very sweet, and because we raised her from pretty much a year old up, so we're like, okay, and she did a really good job adjusting the house as well.
Yeah,
until
and by the time we moved to 17, she was I think like 10 or 11.
around
like
at
that.
least.
Yeah, so
I would imagine.
At that point, she was already kind of an old cat.
Yeah, but still, great, and was okay at 1st. And then all of a sudden, she started attacking our mom, like
bad,
frequently and bad, to where she had to be pulled off of her. And actually, I'm gonna read hers next, because our mom, that's one thing that she says in here. So I'll start with that, with her 17. So she starts off with, when we pulled up in front of the house before we bought it, I was hoping that my husband would like it because I loved it. House was older than our last one. It was just about 100 years old. So, just less than. So it was very musical when it came to the noises the old houses make. So yeah, it did have a lot of the old house creaks.
Old house noises.
And again, and it was all hardwood on the main floor, so you heard everybody walking around.
Yeah.
So our dog Ben was a worrywart. He had to be put on Prozac, human Prozac, because they didn't make doggy Prozac big enough
for a dog that size.
For the dog that size. So his anxiety seemed to get worse, but we considered he was getting older and the move was a little rough on him. Our cat, who was the sweetest kitty, started biting me and attacking me. She attacked me one night when I was in bed, and your dad had to knock her off the bed to get her away from me. So from then on, she just did what she wanted, and I couldn't make her mind. So one night I fell asleep on the couch, like you do, waiting for Peyton to come home from work. She had called me to let me know she was staying with a friend. I was the only one in the house. About 3 a.m., a big bang woke me up from a sound sleep. My heart was beating fast because it sounded like something hit the ceiling just above me. Peyton's room was above the living room, so I ran upstairs to see what hit the floor. It sounded as loud as it was, it seemed like a big piece of furniture fell over in her room. Nothing was disturbed, absolutely nothing. On another occasion, again, I was alone in the house. I was sitting on the Chase lounge watching TV. That sounds so fancy when you say, I was sitting on the Chase lounge.
It was the end of the couch with the long part. That's what...
Yeah. I was sitting on the Chase lounge watching TV. I was babysitting my parents' dog, Lucy. Lucy she's a little lap dog. She likes to burrow under the covers. I had a throw blanket on my lap and the dog between my legs under the blanket. Ben was sleeping, snoring, on his bed, which was across the room. The cat decided that my lap would be the best place to lay, so she started kneading me. And when we say kneading, we were talking about like the biscuits. Like biscuits, the cats do. Yeah. Not being able to touch her without getting bit, I just let this happen. She finally settled and curled up on my lap, and I finished the show I was watching and was searching for something else to watch. I'm all alone in the house. The kids went on vacation with my parents. Totally quiet in the house, and I hear someone clear their throat from downstairs, and it sounded just like Peyton. I was not the only one that heard this. Lucy growled from under the covers, and the cat looked into the kitchen where the stairs to the basement was. I know it sounds crazy, but this house was old and there was not insulation between the floors. So if you could hear someone walk through the house if you were in the basement, and I could tell who it was by the way they walked and the sound the floor made, depending on how heavy the person was. Now she's calling us all fat.
No, she's calling you fat. You got the heaviest steps.
I walk aggressively.
With those big ass feet.
Needless to say, I spent the night on the couch. I told whoever it was that I was going to sleep on the couch tonight. So we also had problems with one certain fire alarm.
Also, I do want to add, she did forget, she mentions the footsteps, but that night she told me, because when we were in the Bahamas and when we got back, she was like, something really weird happened. And I go, what? And she goes, so I was sitting watching TV on the couch. She heard me go, throat clear.
Yeah, because you can tell.
You can tell. She heard my throat clear and then heard walking up the basement stairs, and then it stopped at the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's what she heard.
Yeah.
So she left that part out.
Okay, so then she talks about the fire alarm as well. It was in the hallway upstairs between the girls' bedrooms. Batteries didn't seem to last ever. I put new batteries in, and the next day it would start to chirp sound to let you know that the battery was low. I put new batteries in it. Your dad did too. Peyton did, and so on. I finally bought a new fire alarm, and it still happened. I always bought the good batteries also, no cheap ones. Every time the fire alarm started to chirp, our dog Ben would go and hide, because again, he was a chicken.
There was even one time where it chirped as he was, I think, in one of the bedrooms upstairs or in the hallway.
She says that.
Yeah, so TMI, I was in my bathroom, the door was open and I was peeing. But he actually, because he knew I was in there, it chirped. I heard him like promptly get up from where he was laying, walk into the bathroom with me, and he got in the bathtub because he felt safe in there with me.
Yeah, the bathtub. Yeah. He always got in the bathtub for some reason. So every time the fire alarm started to chirp, our dog Ben would go and hide. Usually he would go downstairs. This terrified him. Or one time he busted into Peyton's bathroom and got into the bathtub just wanting Peyton to save him. This went on several months. One night, your dad, Peyton, and I was watching TV and nothing doing. The frickin' fire alarm started that bullshit again.
That was in the middle of the day.
Yeah. Benjamin woke up and from a sound sleep and headed downstairs. He would go in the bathtub downstairs too, in the basement. So I was sick of it. I headed over to the bottom of the stairs and yelled up, "Stop scaring the dog. This is my house, not yours, and you need to leave." When I came back to the couch to sit down, your dad and Peyton was both staring at me, and Peyton said, "You shouldn't have done that. I have to sleep up there."
Yeah, because at that point, something already super scary had happened to me, so I was like, great, you probably pissed it off.
Right.
So, I'll tell that story in a minute.
So this next one is from one of our mom's best friend. We had a tanning bed down in the basement, and some of our friends would come and use the tanning bed, because why would we make them pay to tan?
Well, that, and also I will say, the street where 17 was on, it was a really safe street. We had some families, so we had our doors unlocked most of the time.
Oh, pretty much all the time.
And it was a revolving door, and we had our friends just in and out all the time. That was one of the things that was so great about that house, is we were close to everybody, so we had a lot more visitors.
Yeah. Well, and the convenient thing was there was a side door leading straight down to the basement. Yeah. So that was what was nice. They could just go in the side door, go straight down and tan when nobody was home, and then they'd be good. So one of our mom's best friends that she grew up with, she came and tanned quite often, and Benjamin loved her. Mm-hmm. So she says, "I texted your mom to see if I could go over and tan. She said I could, and that no one was home, and that the side door was unlocked. I went straight downstairs and played with Ben for a minute, and I had just started to tan when it sounded like the front door opened and Ben started to growl under his breath. He stopped, and I didn't think much about it until I heard someone walk from the living room through the dining room, and Ben started barking. It was a very heavy walk, like someone wearing boots. That's not unusual because our mom's a paramedic. I actually was an EMT at the time that we lived at 17.
So was I.
And you were as well. So we all wore boots. And then our dad always wore cowboy boots. So boots weren't unusual.
Yeah, boots were an unusual sound. Plus, what our friend is describing happened quite often.
Oh, yeah. And again, this was something that you could tell what kind of shoe pretty much somebody was wearing, because boots obviously are heavier, tennis shoes, bare feet.
Again, there's like no insulation between the floors.
The other strange thing was we had a foyer, which also made us feel fancy. So when you walk in the front door, you walk through the foyer, then through the living room, then through the dining room to get into the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, I never heard anyone walk through the foyer to get to the living room. I started to freak out, and I hurried out and got out of the tanning bed and went upstairs to see who was there. I opened the side door, and there were no cars there at all. I sent a text to your mom to see if Peyton had possibly stopped by, or if they did, and she said that Peyton was in Litchfield at work, and you and her were in Springfield for training. So nobody was there.
Yeah.
Benjamin and Benjamin was downstairs in the basement with Sherry, because that's where somebody was, and he needed to be up someone's ass constantly.
Right.
So nobody was there.
So that particular thing would happen quite often, and I have many stories about that particular incident that happened often.
Sherry didn't tan again, I don't think.
Is that the last story that you have from that house?
Nope. I got Ryan's.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll tell about that in a second, and after you read the story.
So Ryan's 17 story, he says, where do I start? First off, there was just the complete uneasy feeling whenever you got past the landing on the stairs. Then at random times during the night, you would hear footsteps, sometimes clearly different people, in the hallway. The worst one that is always brought up is the one where I was dog-sitting Benjamin while you all went to a wedding overnight in St. Louis. At this moment, I was sitting in Paige's twin bed, playing on my computer or doing schoolwork or watching ESPN, or all three. Probably all three, because that's what he does. Mm-hmm. Paige's damn jewelry box with a wind-up song drawer that was never wound up, first of all.
Yeah, we never wound that.
Never wound that up, because when you pulled the bottom drawer out, that's when the song would play. But I never had it wound, because I never used it. So Paige's damn jewelry box with a wind-up song drawer, which was right across from the foot of the bed. Oh, okay. Ben and I were just chilling, hanging out, because Benjamin was laying on the floor next to the bed. Then all of a sudden, there was the damn song from that drawer started. Ben gave his normal whine, and he says, please make the noise. His normal whine, which was the and he jumped up in the bed. Remember, it was a twin bed.
And this dog is 200
pounds. So it's like a literal other person laying in the bed with you. So I then didn't even look up, shut my computer, put it down by the bed, reached over, shut the light off, and snuggled the bed and went to sleep. So I married a chicken shit.
Yeah.
So the next morning when I got up, Ben was still in bed with me, and which was unusual because he never really, if you invited him up on the bed, he was real nervous about it, like, should I be up here? And he wouldn't stay in bed with you.
He would never stay with you all night, and if he did, he sounded like someone getting out of bed, where he would plop down and and then walk out of the room.
Yeah. So for him staying in the bed, in the twin bed with Ryan all night,
he was
terrified. So he got up and looked, and that drawer was out just enough to make the song go. Other than the footsteps, and that the rest happened to everyone else. So, yeah, when he told me that when we got back from the wedding, I was hilarious. Because he's like, and seriously, I just closed my computer, I set it down, snuggled Ben, pulled the covers up, and went to sleep.
Okay.
That was great.
I'm gonna let you tell your stories because I have a lot more and they're way freakier.
Oh, way free here. Yeah, we'll end on you.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was 3 bedrooms upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
We were on opposite ends. So when you go upstairs, there was a little bit of a hallway, and there was a bigger bedroom that was technically the master, and then a bedroom on each side, which both were pretty small, and then a full bathroom up there.
Mm-hmm.
So my bedroom was on the left-hand side when you walked up the stairs, which was directly across from the bathroom.
I will preface this with saying that our parents, actually, their bedroom was in the basement.
Oh yeah,
Because there was a full bedroom and a full bathroom in the basement.
down in the basement.
And when we moved in, that was another one of the appeals to that house is we didn't have to like be in bedrooms right next to each other.
Yeah, and we actually got our own bedrooms.
Yeah.
Which we never had
No.
for 18 years of our lives.
No, it
well,
was really
18
nice.
years of my life.
Yeah, it was really nice not to have to sleep next to you anymore.
So I didn't stare at you while I slept.
Yes, because she sleeps with her eyes open and it's the worst.
Yeah. And actually, Ryan just reminded me there was actually a cemetery not far from our house.
Behind it.
Yeah. Just some timber and like a creek and then a cemetery.
Actually, a fun fact about that cemetery, I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's one of the few remaining segregated cemeteries in Illinois.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't really hear anything myself in my bedroom other than when I was in bed and had the door closed, you did hear somebody walk up and down the hallway. And it was like not loud, but loud enough to where you heard that. And you know it wasn't the dog because it didn't sound like a dog. It sounded like human footprints.
Footprints, yeah.
So
Because you can hear those.
you can definitely hear those. So there was a couple times, I guess, that I did hear some talking, but I just chalked it up to the neighbors. Although my bedroom faced the back of the house where there were no neighbors. But either way, the best thing that I had experienced though was I had got up because at the time Ryan had stayed there and he was already at work. I was getting up to get ready for work. Peyton was still in bed at the moment. She hadn't gotten up to go to school. And our dad's a truck driver, so he's gone all week. Our mom was sleeping in the basement. So I get up, and in our bathroom, there was 3 different types of storage. That's another thing that we love. There was so much storage in the house.
God, yes.
So there was the sink, the vanity on the sink that had a bottom doors where we kept our towels. There was a bench seat that opened up, and there was a tall cabinet that opened as well.
Yes.
But each one of those cabinets made a specific noise.
Yes, it did.
And you could tell which one was shut.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed a towel, and it was the very last towel. We had more towels, but they were in the basement. So you would have had to walk down all of those stairs to get down into the basement.
Right.
Which we're all lazy. Me and Peyton, neither one of us like to walk up and down stairs.
That was
So-
the one thing that did not appeal to us about that.
Nope, there was a lot of stairs. So I grabbed the last towel. I'm like, Peyton's gonna be pissed. I grabbed the last towel. She's gotta go down to the basement to get new towels. So I get in the shower, and there's carpet in our hallway, but there was linoleum in the bathroom. So I'm showering, all of a sudden I hear one of our cabinet doors shut, specifically the vanity cabinet under the sink, where we kept our towels. So my thought was Peyton was going to be getting up here soon to go to get ready for school, and she looked in there, saw that there was no towels, got pissed, slammed the cabinet because it was loud. It was definitely like somebody like pushed it shut. You didn't just let it close, you pushed it shut. I heard 2 barefoot footprints out.
Footsteps, Paige.
Oh, footsteps. I told you I'd do it all the time. I heard 2 barefoot footsteps out of the bedroom or out of the bathroom, and then silence. So I'm like,
Did you hear a sigh?
no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
just
For some
the,
reason I thought you
just
said
the footprints.
Okay. Just the footprints you heard.
So I just heard the footsteps, and
In
they
the
were
cabinet,
barefoot
Mhm.
because the bare feet stick to linoleum.
A very specific sound.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I was like, hello? And I heard nothing. So I'm like, Peyton's pissed. So I finish my shower, think nothing of it, and get out, and I walk down the hallway to Peyton's bedroom, and I open the door, and she's like passed out, and I'm like, hey, did you just come in the bathroom a little bit ago? And she's like, what?
And I was like, I've been sleeping.
Dead. She was dead to the world. She clearly had not gotten up,
No.
and she's not a sleepwalker. So
No, not at all.
So I was like, okay. So I'm like, Ryan's gone. Peyton's sleeping. Okay. So I go down to the basement, and our mother's kind of a hard sleeper. And I go down the stairs, and I like lean down. I'm like, hey, and I'm like, hey, hey. And she's like, what?
Because she's clinically dead when she sleeps.
And it's kind of like, what? I'm like, did you come upstairs? What?
So that means no.
I'm like, okay, so you didn't either. No. I'm like, well, somebody was mad that I used the last towel.
Also, I'm so sorry about all these chair sounds. This chair is really hurting my butt. So I'm like,
and it's just a very poor chair.
it's so bad. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's not good.
At that point, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
When
That's
I was
when I
there.
was, yeah, that was creepy.
It's a weird place. So, is that your last story?
Yeah, I think so, because all the really creepy stuff happened to you. You just felt weird, and you felt like something didn't want you there.
It was weird. So, you know, some people can like feel energies more than other people.
Yeah.
When you, no matter if you were sensitive or not, you walked in that house and you felt a little creeped out.
Uneasy.
You felt uneasy, and at that house, it was so weird because you always, or at least I did, always felt like I was being watched.
Yeah.
Always.
I can agree with that. Ryan,
Always.
do you? Yeah, Ryan agrees with that too.
Oh, Daddy went to bed.
He was tired of her shit.
He was like, I'm tired of listening to this. So I always felt like I was being watched, and it felt like I was never alone.
Yeah, I have
So-
to agree with that. Yeah.
Because it felt like, how do I want to say this? It felt like being in a crowd that you couldn't see.
Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good explanation.
Thank you. That just popped into my head. I'm actually pretty proud of that. So that's kind of how it always felt like in that house. Like even when I was alone, I spent a lot of time alone in that house because
Yeah.
you had moved out.
Yeah.
Mommy and Daddy were at work a lot,
Right.
and so I was in the house alone a lot. So I spent a lot of quality time with that house and the dead people within it.
And Benjamin.
Yeah, and Ben. So it, again, you always felt like you were being watched. You felt uneasy, and you just felt a weird energy. Like I felt that quite a bit, but I was comfortable, and I don't know if it was just Stockholm syndrome, but I liked that house within all the creepiness and everything. So one of the big things that I will say is my insomnia started in that house.
Yeah.
That's when my insomnia really started.
Yeah.
Because I would sleep fine, and then once we moved into there, it was like I could never fall asleep, and it took everything that I had, like to the point where I was taking like Benadryls all the time just to fall asleep. So that's when my insomnia started. So in that house, one thing that happened to me and our mother all the time is there'd be a lot of nights where we would be sitting on the couch watching TV. And this happened often. Remember when she said in her note that she woke up at like 3 a.m. because something like slammed?
Yeah.
That happened a lot. To where it wasn't, again, it's not a creaking house sound. It sounded like a big dresser just falling down.
I'm dead to the world when I sleep too, though, so that's why I never got woke up.
But stuff like that would happen not only at night, but in the middle of the day. So that's another reason why that house was so bizarre, is because weird shit like that
happened during the day, absolutely.
Every hour of every day.
Yeah.
Well,
because Sherry tanned during the day.
Yeah. So we would hear big like booms like that often. That wasn't anything unusual. And again, it was a very specific boom. Like it sounded like furniture falling or something being like broke.
Right.
It was so bizarre. And again, nothing was ever out of place.
No.
Ever. So it came from literally nowhere. And it's bizarre because how it sounded is from where we were in the living room, the ceiling right above us, it sounded like something slammed in that area. So it was the 3 bedrooms upstairs. There was 2 smaller ones and the middle one. And it always sounded like something was falling in that middle room.
Yeah.
And when you were in the middle room, you never experienced that when you were in the room.
No.
So
No, because you moved your bedroom there after I moved out.
Yes. So another very distinctive thing about that house. And the thing is, I don't like to talk about this unless it's with someone that I'm close to because I sound insane. Again, I spent a lot of time in that house.
Yeah.
And we were only there for 4 years. So me having like the knowledge in my noggin about the specific weird shit in that house really goes to show either I'm A, crazy, or B, I had a lot of weird shit happen to me. So
well, yeah, because I mean, I moved out. I was only at 17 for a year before I moved out.
Yeah.
So I didn't live there as much.
Yeah. So one of the weird things about that house. So in my old room, the bedroom all the way on the right-hand side as you're coming up the staircase. In that bedroom, nothing weird ever really happened when the door was shut. Also, another weird thing about that bedroom was that was the only way you could access the attic. Was through the closet of that bedroom. Really weird.
A small square hole in the ceiling of that closet is the only way into the attic of the house.
Yeah, but as creepy as that sounds, I never really experienced anything in that bedroom. Now, going over into the big bedroom. So in that big bedroom, it's so weird. The door closed is a weird energy in that house, a closed door. Because when you were in the tiny room on the right-hand side of my old room, door closed, you didn't hear anything, you felt safe, The bigger room in the middle, when you had the door closed, you would hear someone pacing up and down the hallway.
Pacing.
And
it was constant. I do remember
when you opened the door, it stopped.
Right, yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. And you would hear the same thing from your old room. It's bizarre. So, one of the weird things that happened, that was where I first saw something. And I saw it twice in one morning.
In the big bedroom?
I'll tell you.
Oh, okay.
So, I had already moved into the big bedroom, but because Paige and Ryan had moved out, I had the entire upstairs to myself. So, it was all my bedroom, basically. So, I had some things like in my old bedroom and in the big bedroom. And that particular morning I was getting ready for school. I think it was my senior year of high school. And I remember I had left my tennis shoes in the small room. So we still had twin beds in both small rooms. So I went in the small room, I sat on the twin bed. I'm facing the doorway, which is where you see down the hallway. So for a split second, I see someone walk out of Paige's old room into the bathroom as I'm tying my shoes.
Well, that's one of those things where you see it out of the corner of your eye type of deal,
Uh-huh.
where you're not
And I
actually
kinda-
looking straight on.
And I kind of like, I looked up and I was like, huh? And I was the only one home. Mommy was gone at work. Daddy was on the road. You weren't even living there. I was the only one home. And I specifically remember a black skirt, a blue long sleeve top, and brown hair in a bun. That is what I remember seeing. So
Like old timey,
yeah,
kind of a
like early 1900 look.
yeah.
That's what I remember seeing. And I was like, interesting. So then I was like, you know what, it's fine, I'm going to school. So she can have the house for the day. So I had to walk into Paige's old room. I don't fucking remember why I had to go in there. I think I had to like put something, like a blanket away or something. I don't know. So as I'm walking out of Paige's room, the door to Paige's room is facing the door to the bathroom, and we have the doors open all the time. Because again, having the doors closed makes everything twice as weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I had, both doors were open, and as I'm turning the corner to go down the staircase, I see the same woman out of the corner of my eye in the bathroom. And I go, yeah, I'm going to school. Like, all right, this is fine, I guess.
She just had to go powder her face.
I guess, I don't know. And it was so weird because like I saw her walking and then she was just standing in the bathroom. I was like, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm leaving, obviously.
She had to be.
I guess, I don't know. It was really weird. Because she was standing like right where our toilet paper holder was. Like the tall one.
like-
she was standing there, like in the corner of the room. So I was like,
Oh.
yeah, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So that's another weird instance.
So that was before you never went into my room again?
Yes, and I'll explain why I did that. So, again, a lot of weird shit in that house. Before, I'll tell a few stories before that. So I will say that all my friends that I ever had come into the house, I would tell them like, oh yeah, my house is haunted. But I wouldn't really go into much detail.
Mhm.
But, and anyone that I wouldn't even tell stories to, always felt creeped out in the house, like
Yeah.
really bad, to the point where they'd be like, I have to pee. And I'd be like, okay.
All right. You
And
know
then-
where the bathroom is?
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, okay, bathroom's on the hall. They'd be like, will you come with me? I'm like, you want me to hold your hand? And they're like, no, I don't want to be in the bathroom by myself. I'm like, okay. Like, so I peed with a lot of my friends. So there was one time, right before I moved into the big bedroom, it was like this gross gold and teal color.
Yeah.
Like it was like one wall was gold and the other one was teal, so I was just like, I'm painting that.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, it was gross. So I painted it. So when I was making the move, I moved everything out and then I started painting the walls, and I had one of my friends over, and she and I were painting because I asked her, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be painting my bedroom, and her name's Kim. Hi, Kim. She was like, yeah, I'll can I help you? And I was just like, sure. So we're painting my bedroom. There's nobody home. All the windows are closed because it's summertime and it's hot as shit. We had the AC going. And so it sounds so wholesome. We're painting and da-da-da. So we took like a breather because we had just done the first coat. So we were sitting down on the floor, and again, the doors closed in the house gives it a weird energy, and we had the door closed. So of course we hear the walking, and it was the weirdest thing. Right outside the door, we hear a man go, ha 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 ha. laugh, and she was in the middle of a sentence because we were talking, and we heard the laugh, and I go, "Shh, did you hear that?" And she goes, "I was gonna ignore it." Just knew what to do. And I was like, "That was weird. Continue with your story." And then she goes, "How am I supposed to? I don't even remember what I was doing." It was the funniest thing. So it was so random and the weirdest, like so weird. So going back to the footsteps that our friend Sherry experienced, that happened quite often.
Yeah.
So the footsteps would start at the edge of the foyer into the living room. They would start there and they would walk through the living room into the dining room, and they would stop at the staircase to the basement, is where they would stop.
Yeah. Which again is weird because there's a foyer to walk through if you're going from either the front door or the stairs.
Which is another reason as to why we knew that there was nobody home.
Right.
That there wasn't anyone that came in, because they would start at the edge of the living room. And it was all the time. And most of the time that happened was during the day.
Right.
Again, we heard that quite often. I think that happened to all of us that were ever in the house.
Right.
To the point where even one time, our basement leaked really bad.
Right.
Quite often, to the point where we would have to like put towels at the floor next to the wall to soak up the water that was pouring in.
The waterfall that was happening.
I also say that there's something with energies and water. I don't want to go into it, but that's another thing. Whatever.
I don't know.
So there was one time after a really heavy rain, Mommy and Daddy had to work. So me and our grandfather, who is a Baptist pastor,
Yeah.
we went downstairs and we were putting sealant in every little crevice that we could find.
Every nook and cranny.
Every nook and cranny. So, and after we put sealant on everything, we had to repaint every time. It was crazy. So we heard the footsteps, and this was at like 11 a.m. Or something, because I was still in my pajamas because I'm a piece of shit and I just woke up. So
and you were a teenager.
Exactly. So, I mean, hell, I do that now, but I work nights, people, so it's fine.
She's still a piece of shit.
Yeah. I never said I wasn't. So, we heard that downstairs in the basement, and again, it's very pronounced footsteps. Heard it start from the foyer, go to the staircase, and Papa, our grandpa, looked at me, because like we both stopped and we looked at the ceiling.
Because you could like follow the footsteps.
Yeah, you could follow the footsteps
with your
as
eyes.
they moved. You could. So they stopped at the staircase, and Papa goes, "Hello?" And then he looked at me. Nobody's home. And he looked at me. And he was like, "Someone here?" And I go, "No, Papa. That happens all the time." And he, to the point where our grandfather actually told me, he was like, "I think you should have someone come in here and like bless the house." It's like it's pretty interesting. And then we had like this whole discussion about spirits and everything. And it was a great conversation. It's one of those conversations that I cherish with my grandpa. But yeah, that's another story. Oh God, there's so many, dude. Of course, like regular bumps and creaks.
Right.
All that crazy shit.
So when they moved into their smaller house in the same town, the dog and the cat kind of went back to as normal.
They mellowed out.
As Benjamin definitely mellowed out, but of course he was 13 at the time, so I mean,
Yeah.
there wasn't much left with Ben. But Pookie, best cat again. She turned into literally the best cat as soon as they moved out of 17.
They both mellowed out, and Pookie never attacked anyone ever again.
No, not even little kids, because she did used to.
She did hate little kids.
She hated little kids. But I mean, she never right. But she never attacked anybody ever again.
No, never again.
They never had to worry about that. She was the same indoor outdoor kitty, and she was the most lovable little. She was the best.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So yeah, it was the house. I mean, it was
the house. I think it was the energy in the
it-
house.
She hated it.
Oh yeah. So the last story that I'm gonna tell is like probably the scariest thing that happened to me at that house.
Yeah.
So it was after Paige had moved out, and again I had the whole upstairs to myself basically. So it was kind of nice. So her old room, I like put like blankets and stuff in the closet. I had another blanket that I had just laying on like our futon, and I went to go put it in Paige's room. And for some reason the door was closed. And I don't know why. So I opened the door, and when I like walked into it, it was like crossing that threshold was like walking into a room filled with cotton. That you could feel the tension. Like you could cut like the energy with a beach ball. It was crazy.
Well, and you definitely didn't feel alone in that bedroom, because I never did.
No, absolutely not. Because even in the big bedroom when I had the door closed, there would be times that I would be in there like at night. Of course, I'd be up all night because hello, insomnia.
Right.
So I'd be up all night, and Benjamin would be laying next to me as I'm in my chair. I'm like playing my PlayStation, and you'd hear the footsteps start, and Ben would look at me with his worried face.
His worried face.
He'd look at me and he'd go, oh, with his little whine. And I would just have to be like, no, buddy, it's okay. I promise. And then he'd like gingerly lay his head back down, like, okay.
But his
Like-
ears were still very worried.
Like with his little worried eyebrows. I keep hitting my mic, shit. So Ben would see stuff too in that house, but the day that I walked into Paige's bedroom, again, you could cut the energy with a beach ball. It was so thick. So thick. It felt weird in there. So I already like felt uneasy, and I know this sounds weird, but I felt the energy really towards the corner of the room where we had a fucking rocking chair. Why there was a rocking chair in there is beyond me.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm like, who the fuck put that there? Whatever. Probably our mother, because she's an asshole.
It moves things around constantly.
She does. So I turned around to the closet, which is right next to the door to go into the bedroom. I put the blanket in the closet, I shut the closet door, and because I felt so uneasy, I was doing this in very weird movements. I was like, as I like put the blanket into the closet, and I shut the door, and as I like turned to go out of the bedroom door, I heard from the corner where that fucking rocking chair was, I heard like a like it was the weirdest thing, scared the piss out of me. I shut the door and I didn't go back in that room the rest of the time that we lived in that house. And I think we were there for like another year.
Yeah.
So I didn't go back in that room. And when I finally did shut it, first of all, Father didn't believe me. I was like, you son of a bitch. Also in that house, our VCR went crazy, which I know it's a VCR and it's old, but
Still,
it would
worked
start
just fine.
rewinding.
Even with nothing in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we never kept tapes in it.
No.
We're not one of those like, oh, I think it's still in the VCR or DVD. We were never those people.
Right.
Because you were weird about being alphabetized. So
You can find your shit easier if it's alphabetized.
true. So we never kept anything in there, and that's another thing. So because he even experienced that, and he was like, I wonder why this just keeps going off. It's our dad. So I told Daddy about the man growling at me, and he didn't believe me. And it was the weirdest thing, because after I closed that door and basically locked that side of the upstairs off, after I shut the door, from that like moment forward, I would hear men talking in that room every fucking day.
Men, not a man.
I would hear like two distinct voices, like they were having a conversation all the time.
Yeah.
No windows open, AC running, no one home. Again, I was there alone a lot. And again, either I'm crazy, but stuff like this that kind of stuff was specific to that house.
Yeah. It was creepy.
The craziest shit.
Yeah.
And I never went in Paige's room again. I was like, that's fine, you can have it.
I don't need to be in here.
Right. It was awful. It was terrible. I hated it. I was like, I don't like this. No, you can have that room.
10 out of 10, would not recommend.
Wouldn't recommend. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the scariest story that I have of that house, actually.
Yeah.
It did. It about made me piss my pants. Because I wasn't expecting it. Of course
no. Of course you're not expecting somebody to growl at you.
No, absolutely not. Because it was weird.
So go ahead.
It was weird because it felt like I walked into someone's room and they were angry that I was there.
They were.
What it was. Like, that's what it felt like.
They were pissed.
Like, imagine your sibling. You know, me. Like, imagine, like, you got in a really bad fight with your sibling and then you walked in the room and they're like, why are you here? Like
ugh!
That's kind of what it felt like, but it was more like a male energy. Of course, it was a male voice, but yeah.
Well, didn't one of our neighbors actually say she thought she would see some of us in
the windows?
In the windows when we weren't. She knew we weren't home.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Yeah. It was a. It's not a. And even the people that are living there now, we know them. It's a small town, of course, we know them. But they have even said a few things that correlate with our experiences with the house.
So, I don't know if she listens to this, but one thing I will say is after we moved out of that house, the house that I moved with my parents, when we moved out of that house and we moved into the new house, it was so weird to go to a house that was empty feeling.
Oh yeah, because nothing's ever happened at their house now.
No, I mean, like, someone did pass away in it.
Right, but it was not. There's nothing there.
Feels empty,
and that's our house too that we bought.
Yeah, because I mean, going from a house that had like popping off with shit, and then going to a house there where, again, you feel the empty air.
It's almost lonely.
I know. Again, if you don't believe in ghosts, sorry, we sound insane. But when we moved out of that house, and I actually ran into one of the people that, the woman of the couple that bought the house. She either had just had a baby or was getting ready to have the baby. I think she was getting ready to have the baby. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's a baby.
Oh my gosh,
I don't pay
yeah.
attention. Yeah, it's a while ago.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So she was getting ready to have her baby, and we were talking about, like, ooh, the spooky ghost stuff. And I told her, I almost felt the need to tell her, like, PSA warning. I told her, I go, look, I know this sounds weird, but put the nursery in my old room, the room on the right-hand side, not Paige's room. I was like, I know that sounds weird, and I can give you all the reasons why, but please put your baby in that room.
In the safe room.
In the safe room. Because I told her, I was like, look, long story short, something growled at me in Paige's old room. I was like, put your baby.
And it wasn't my dog.
It was not. There was nobody home. I was like, put your baby in the good room. And I think she kind of laughed it off, like she definitely didn't believe me. She was like, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's fine. But her husband worked with my brother-in-law. And I guess there was one day where they were sitting down after the baby was born. She put the baby in the wrong room.
She put him in the wrong one.
I warned her. I was like, please, keep your baby safe. We don't want any, like, Rosemary's Baby type of shit.
Gosh.
So, I guess they were sitting downstairs, and they had a baby monitor, which are creepy anyway.
Yeah.
And I know they also can pick up, like, frequencies from other electronics, but this is way too
coincidental.
specific
And, yeah, specific.
to be interference. Because it's not like you heard a truck driver going 9 to 5. It's not like you heard a truck driver over like a CB speaker. Like it's a whole other thing. So over their baby monitor, they're downstairs. Like they were like watching TV or something. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. They were downstairs, and over their baby monitor, they hear, "Well, hello, little baby."
Seriously makes my skin crawl.
Uh,
I got a chill all over again.
and it was just like a calm voice, like, "Hello, little baby. You can have the baby." I would be like, "Nah, that's fine.
Take it with you. It's fine.
It's fine." So yeah, so those are our haunted house stories. I do have more ghost stories from other places that I've lived too, but I won't even bother getting into those.
That's too many.
There
You moved
are.
around a lot.
Man. The last few years, hey, look, I live in a place that is incredibly expensive, and you gotta go where it's cheap, man. Like, sometimes they raise the rent on you at the end of the lease, and you're like, all right, well, looks like I gotta
Time
go.
to move.
Right? I'm a bitch on a budget, and it's time for me to go. So yeah,
Yeah. That was fun.
crazy stuff.
I love telling ghost stories from our houses.
I know, because they sound so weird.
Well, yeah.
They're weird and like almost to the point of being
Out there.
unbelievable. Yeah, it's so weird, like out there. I mean,
gross.
gross. But yeah, this again is our first episode that we've recorded literally in the same room, and unfortunately we don't have like travel equipment. So I have my big ass like mic stand and everything.
We got a real janky setup.
Yeah, it's real bad. So when I finally launch that Patreon, that's what that'll go to.
Help us.
Right, exactly. It'll help us with
If
like
you
equipment
wish
and
to.
setup and whatnot. So eventually, when I launch the Patreon, that's kind of like what your money would go to. Your money would help us with expenses for our podcast because we want to keep this going.
Yes.
So this was our first episode recorded together, so this was fun.
And probably going to be the only one for a long time.
For a while. Oh yeah, for sure.
For a while.
Yeah. So, because they came out to visit me
For Christmas.
for Christmas, you know.
Yeah.
So
We didn't do anything because everything's closed and we just did things outside.
you know, plague stuff. You can follow us on Facebook at
2K away.
and on Instagram at 2K Away Podcast. We do have a Gmail if you'd like to contact us through there, tell us your spooky stories, or suggest something. That's super fun.
We would love
It
to hear
is-
your stuff.
Oh, absolutely. We have our Gmail is not at 2K Away Podcast at gmail.com.
The number 2.
Yes, the number 2. And we do have a YouTube channel if you'd like to see our oh so pretty pig faces.
It's for the prettiest pigs in the pig
We
pen.
really are. So, our YouTube channel, Jesus, my brain. I'm not used to doing this in person. I'm used to doing this at a webcam on my laptop. So looking at a camera is freaking me out.
I know, it's kind of strange.
I know. To look at you and then look at the camera, because normally I'm looking at you through the camera.
You're mostly just going to get my profile.
It's fine.
You don't need to see my whole face.
Yeah. Remember when I said pigs? So you can follow us on YouTube at 2K Away Podcast. We have a whole channel there. I think this will be episode number 12, which is fun. So we hope you keep listening, and we will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.